Hey guys, this is DFD, aka Dark Frozen Depths, back with another Kamihime project video. Now, this one's going to be a little bit different because I'm going to break down this team that I have because this is kind of like going a little bit into how elaborate teams can possibly work. I know this is going to explain this setup because as far as I know, this is basically the quote-unquote best in slot elaborate team for Light for a very, very long time because as far as I know, they don't get any more elaborate Hime on Light. You might be able to do some other setups and everything with like another soul or bringing characters from other elements. I know Hera, who's on the current banner right now at the time of this video, and Fire version of Belinus, who's in like two banners, assuming we get the collaboration banner next event. I know they're like very good to use off element too, but this is more or less just breaking down this team because how they work and everything. I'm going to use this setup I got right here. Like, I put this here just because it can lower attack power enemies. Make sure that Edison has at least one red ability on this EX slot. Just, it doesn't matter which one it is, make sure it's a red ability. Because otherwise the setup won't work. And then on top of that too, I've also got some extra stuff in the back. These are like characters that can up your damage a little bit more. Freja is for the burst streak damage, which isn't doing too much, but I guess it helps. You can also put in a any Hime that gives you a super potion if you want some more survivability, but I found out this team survives extremely well. Then there's Water Minerva. She ups the ability damage of every character on the team, doesn't matter what element. She's like a free elaborate, basically. And that really helps out with the ability damage teams. If we do get the Heaven's Lost Property collab, which is the next banner after the current event, again at the time of this video, the wing character Hiyori also does the same effect as Minerva. So that's something to know. For ability damage teams, you may actually want that because if they're upping the soft cap, it helps, period. Speaking of which, that's why I'm going into the weapons. Now, these weapons, I'm not completely finished with this grid. It's still pretty strong as is, though. Depending on what you have, results may vary or whatnot, but for the most part, you are trying to get, like, as many weapons with, like, especially XL Elaborate, which is, in this case, Sacred, which has the 4 pluses. You're trying to get as many of those as you can fit on a grid while still having some other multipliers. I still have, like, a decent amount of Vigor on here. I got the Elaborates. I don't need the Exceed, if you want to be honest. And also, when we get a new soul, even a Stinger is not needed, because if you do the setup with Beethoven way later down the line, she's supplying some Stinger, if I remember correctly. But for the most part, you can see I got all this right here, and there's ability damage and all that, critical keen and everything. This is a lot to factor in. The this weapon right here, this Phantom weapon is from the battlefield, and that's a Lucent weapon. I have it on here because I have 3 characters that like stabs, which happen to be Osiris, Osh, and a 10. You could lean more towards Edison for one of those if you want, because I do believe you still can get like I think 3 Arcane on the same team, but it really depends on the Hime you have. But I wouldn't consider this weapon unless you either A, really want to try and hardcore push Edison's damage, which I don't know how much it affects the team, or if you have at least 3 Kamihime that like that same weapon. So I wouldn't consider it otherwise. Also, a big thing that helps is you get the soul weapon to Final Limit Break too. So you definitely want 5 stars on the soul weapon if you can get it. Additional things, I also have this Eidolon right here, who is the 2nd generation of the malicious Eidolons. She greatly helps for this, because this is like free ability damage. The higher you limit break her, the more she gives. She also gives burst damage and attack damage too, normal attacks, so there's that. I also have a final limit break version of Monic Armor, so that's something that can help me out. But this is the big one, having either Catastrophe Eidolon or limited Haggith. I have normal Haggith here though. But limited version of Haggith or Catastrophe out on. If you don't have Catastrophe out on, you can use Hagif, but you want to try and maximize that. Also, sad note, you don't have to plus 99 your characters. I did it because I just don't care, and I'm trying to, like, literally push as much base stats as I can at this point, because that's the only other thing I can really do with this grid. But logically, you don't plus 99 your characters until literally every other weapon grid has all of its plus 99, so there's that. Adoans use their own plus orbs, so you can plus 99 Adoans at will. But anyways, I'm going to show this team off, and I'm going to go into challenge because right now it's burst tab, so I can't do a raid. So I'm going to just quickly show this off on this fight right here, because this one's not going to kill me. And you see my clear turn right here, so there's that. So, if depending on what you have, like I have a Catastrophe, so I want to find a limited Hagif. I can use this one, but it's not giving me that much elemental attack. Ignore the fact that it says Thunder. It's actually light. Nutaku's just weird with translations at times, but it's actually light. I can do this one for more of it overall, because if I summon her mid-battle, she's only going to give me an elemental attack buff of like 30%, I do believe. So, while it will help my chances of landing debuffs, it's still the fact that it's like, I don't necessarily have to. But it is nice if I do land the debuffs. But, I'm going to take this one, and we're going to go into the fight. I'm going to have to break down the clicking order and all that too, because that's the main reason why I'm making this video. Elaborate teams, when you get the ability resets and all that, there's a lot to take in. So, she has some debuff resistance right here. So, if I wanted to, I can hold off on trying to land debuffs with Lug, but I don't really need to. So, to break down the clicking order, I use Edison Bot 2, then Edison Bot 1 to get some extra attack and defense stacks. Those do add up over time. And I'm trying to use Osiris's ability right here, and then Ocha's ability right here. I can take my time explaining this, because these buffs are turn-based, so there's that. So, if you look at everything that Edison has right here, because of that setup, I managed to already get 3 stacks of attack and defense. I got a stack of damage cut and dark resistance. I also have the robots as well, and it's also giving me it says damage from abilities increased by a certain amount. But the thing is though, I have that's from Och right there. That's like a damage plus for ability damage. The same thing is for this add-on too. So again, that adds up over time. Now, what I start off with first, Osiris, I tend to do that because that's not going to miss in this AoE. And that's 1 stack. It's 10% for every stack. And if you give her, if she uses 10 moon magic, she starts doing attack down with it, not dark resistance or dark attack. So she'll start adding attack down with that, and that's also 10%. It only counts up to 40% from what I found out, but you can get it to stack way higher if you want. So there's that. And I suggest you get it to stack way higher because the way defensive debuffs work in this game, they offset defensive buffs. So the more of those you can stack, the better. That said, I can use Lugs. Now, this is where I got to speed things up because it's going to be like talking and all that. So normally in this order, I use Lugs, then do this one for Lug, and then do this one. In that order. 1, 2, 3. Now, at this point, I've done 3 red abilities. I have to use this in order to get the 10 to reset. Then I use Ocha's first one, and then Ocha's second one. This will give me enough burst damage to full burst by the end of turn 1. Remember that later. Then, you could pick which one you want to use between Lug and Solomon. It doesn't matter, but I tend to use Lugs. Now, I'm at 7 red abilities. I can hit a 10s again for another reset. Now, at this point, whoever I didn't use between and it's not Solomon, it's Edison. Between Edison and Lug, I use their red ability. Now, at this point, I do 3 of the first ability for Osiris, because she should have gotten 3 moon magic by this. You should have had 9. Then I do that one to get more stacks, and I do this one. And if I'm trying to optimize damage, I need to do this a 10 ability, then this one right here. Because by then, it'll give it more ability damage for that. Then I go back and do this again twice. And then just to get some of our HP back, I make a 10 self-heal, then do this. Now at this point you shouldn't have any more red abilities for the time being, so I use 2 Moon Magic on Osiris that she has. And I use Solomon's Reset, or Edison. I gotta quit saying Solomon, it's actually Edison. Now, at this point it don't matter who you use your yellow ability for first, but I tend to do Lug first and Osiris. Then do this, and I can go circle back to Lug right here. And a 10's gotten another reset since she hit another 4. And then you can choose to save this, but I like using it so it gives me more attack and defense buff. And then I full burst. I'm going to skip the full burst as well, because to save time for the animations. Remember, Lug's debuff is timed, as well as Edison's if you use it like an attack debuff. So now turn 2's happened, I had my full burst, my burst energy is back up again. I'm doing this, and I'm doing this. Now, the only thing I'm doing is getting another stack off for Osiris for all that stuff. I will save Lug. You need to still use the reset though, and I will save Och. There's a reason for that. I'll get to that in turn 3. But you should have enough for another full burst. Now, if you happen to have her final broken, this is a good time to use Mono Armor, because you want to hopefully get enough combo rate for Solomon. Now, I can use Lug and use this. You can use Osiris first too if you wanted to get more damage off. But it doesn't matter. You're basically using all the abilities as they pop back up, provided you use Lug's second ability first before resetting. Because you use 4 red abilities, or 3 red abilities, you get this from Osiris, which is another Moon Magic, which can then let you get a 4th one to get a 10 off. And then you get this right here. Because Osh's 3rd ability is still in effect, you get an extra nuke right there. Lug can full burst. Lug can burst, but I choose to save it because I want a full burst where it does more damage. So now, this is the point where I'll start saving a little bit of stuff for Lug, just so I can do a little bit more damage on the next turn. So, I can full burst with them again. Now, this is where it gets a little bit different depending on the content, but since I'm trying to beat this as fast as possible, I'm going to start unloading some stuff here, because by the time the bots and everything come back, it won't matter. Some of the abilities come back, it won't matter. So I can do this, but I will save some of the abilities. I could have used Lug's before, but it don't matter because I'm going to have enough red in order to finish this fight off without having to hit attack again. So, if you do this, like if you have this add-on, you can finally use her after turn 5. And now this is where a lot of follow-up damage is going to start kicking in, because you got Och's buff back in effect. You can also debuff with Lug if you want. I'm going to do this all together. I didn't land a debuff, but that's okay, because Osiris has already put so many stacks to where it's like it's still good enough, and she'll start putting more off as well. I will use this Moon Magic, and I will also use a 10 before it resets. Then I can go use a Lug again, get another Moon Magic off, although it's not really going to matter. Like I can use Lug, I can use Osiris. Like Lug, Och, Osiris. I'm confusing the name, sorry. But this gets yet another thing off, and then because she's already used 10 Moon Magic, she's starting to stack attack down as well, as you see right here. I've already capped her light resistance, and I can take my time since Lug didn't land the thing. But there's attack down as well. The boss is already almost dead, so it kind of doesn't matter what red abilities I use at this point, but I do want to sit back and do that in order to get a 10 to reset and everything. And then you get like 4 or 10 uses. If you use Solomon, you can get another Lug off, and I'm pretty sure Osiris can Moon Magic herself down to another one. So you might get another Och nuke off on that one. That's basically how I broke this down. And because of my weapon grid and all that, that cheesed this fight to where I did in like 5 turns. It might take other people a little bit longer though. But yeah, that's the gist of that one. But going back into the party with how the weapons are broken down. So obvious, I'm trying to get as much elaborate off, so I got these. I need to get that a little bit more a little bit higher. I'm still getting the disc for that. Now, until the versatility weapons come in, I'm more or less using these because you may not need them later on, depending on the setup and whatnot. But this whole left side is based, well, not even really the left side. Like this weapon right here will likely be gone. This weapon right here will likely be gone as well, and this weapon right here will stay for a while, but I'll probably get rid of it at some point. But I still need the vigor from those vigor weapons. So as I start getting more and more elaborate weapons, from what I've seen from one of the JP players thing, they had like 4 or 5 of these, which is Osiris's weapon, or if you want the permanent version, Prometheus, because it's going to give you the vigor, it's going to give you the elaborate. So they had essentially Edison's weapon or Beethoven, doesn't matter, you have them both there. Then they practically have 3 versatility weapons. They also put in, if you really want to try and guarantee the crit, you can put it in an A10 weapon. Then you're basically filling out the rest of the grid with as many of these as you can get, the XL Everett's, because that's also going to give you your vigor. But if you're still short one weapon, I would suggest using this one, because this is like a 10% final damage increase, and it stacks with all the other ones. Because the game will calculate your damage, then put the damage plus on top of it, then multiply by the final damage. Speaking of which, when you go into the character setups, every elaborate character in the game should be using necklace set regardless, so get 3 necklaces. I also went a little extra mile by going and getting the amulet and the timepiece. Now this isn't necessarily a good amulet roll because it's like 3 and 4, but it still gives you a decent amount of protection. But it's also got the affliction rate, which I don't necessarily need, but in Lu's case it does help, so there you go. But the timepiece is a big one because preferably you want the timepiece where it's like it decreases over time, so it like front loads all your final damage. Instead, this will have to take 20 turns to hit full effect. When out the gate it starts off and it will decrease over time across 10 turns. Now, if you happen to somehow be in a fight with this team that lasts like 20 plus turns, and maybe increases is better. But I tend to want decreases, so it like front loads all my damage, and that's what I have on Och. And if you really want to go the extra mile, the IDs that you're trying to roll, if you get lucky, is the crit ones or the ability damage ones. After that, I would go for attack, because that's basically what you're doing for the ability damage teams. You could probably do bursts as well, because they will burst quite a bit, but most of the damage comes from their ability damage. The burst doesn't really add up as much. It still depends on how much you overcap for the burst, and I am overcapping with this team because of all the different buffs and everything. But it's still the simple fact that it's like most of it comes from the ability damage, and you need to increase the soft caps on ability damage, which leads into the next thing I gotta explain about this. This is why this is like 62%, because it hits soft cap at 50%, which is already plenty. But with ability damage, it's been tested to where if you get as much past the soft cap as possible, it actually ups everything overall. If you're getting a lot of those XL weapons that I mentioned, because you can try and plan for banners and all that where you can get them, but if you're trying to get all those XL weapons, you can eventually push this to, I do believe, 150%, which is a hard cap. Apparently there's a hard cap past the soft cap. But for that, you need basically 500% worth of ability cap up from your weapons. And it will translate to 150% past that soft cap. So That said, you need to get a lot of like XL exceeds and all that. The versatility helps because it comes with a medium exceed. Maybe in a 10, it's small exceed though. I mean, I keep saying exceed, I mean elaborate. But that's the thing. It was like elaborate's a big thing with ability damage. Get elaborate, like get the ability boosting. I have this just because I don't have too much else I can put on the grid, but it's mainly elaborate. Like get elaborate. Like if I wanted to, I can also like, because the stinger's not going to help if you do it off element anyways. I could go in here and resort my weapons. Like let's go here. I can also focus on abilities, and I have this just on standby. And this I could have too. I just don't feel like raising it really, but it's also not a bad option. Because if I'm going to break weapons, it's not. This one isn't high priority. That one comes from it comes from Romeo, the SSR version, and I think somebody else, but I forgot who. But this is just a stopgap one that you can get from Ultimate Raids. But mainly you're trying to get this one if you're trying to grind out the other ones. So I may try to get a third one of these eventually. But yeah. If you're doing off-element, Stinger is not going to help you at all, so you definitely want to load up with Elaborate, because it really does show on off-element fights. I would do that on camera, but this is already long enough as is. But anyway, that's all I got to say. I broke all this down. Sorry if I confused some of the names and the terms and all that, because I was trying to focus on the fight while explaining the stuff, and sometimes it's a little bit difficult. But yeah, Edison is the soul you're using. I just have a skin for her to make her look like Solomon. Don't use Solomon. That's the biggest thing that confused some people when they saw this. Is like, Solomon is not the actual soul. You can make souls look like other souls. Like, if I went into details with this, I can go right here, and you see Edison can look like all these different skins I've purchased. It's literally this one. This soul right here is the actual one I'm using. But I choose to make her look like Solomon. I can even make her look like Andromeda, who doesn't even do ability damage. But yeah. But that's how all that's broken down. That's what I wanted to go over and cover. There might be some finer nuances I might have missed past like turn 4, but most of the time you're not going to have 4 turns with this team. Like most of the time. If you're going into like fights where it's like, say, past Guardian Plus, then you probably will. But and also you've seen the Satanachia thing. But when I get better weapons, this their ability damage cap is going to basically at least double. So even then, I probably won't be going past 4 turns in Satanachia and a few other things. But only time will tell. But anyways, that's all for this. More will come soon. I just wanted to break this down because there's 2 things. One, somebody asked me about the clicking order with all this type of stuff, and it's like, yeah, I probably should do a video because when it comes to cooldown resets and all that, you have to factor in all these different passives because there's 3 passives on this team that are based on how many times you use an ability. Technically 4 if you can include Edison's. So Ocha's like every 5 times a red ability goes off, she gives a follow-up hit. That's fine. You can do that without thinking. Or at least without thinking too much. Osiris, though, is where it comes in, because she gets a move magic every 3 times an ability is used, or she bursts. So, there's that. And a 10, she will reset her second ability every 4 times a red ability is used. When you come in the Fire Bolinus, she's got 2 different resets. One that's like 15 red, and another that's like 3, I do believe. So, yeah. And then, of course, the Edison bot, every red ability is getting followed up. As long as that bot's active. So, there you go. But anyways, that's all for this. More will come soon. I just wanted to break this down because, again, a lot of thought has to go into these ability damage teams. It is a lot of clicking. I already know. And a lot of people don't seem to like that. A lot of people seem to like going into auto ability and all that type of stuff. This doesn't work with auto. You will do far less damage if you go auto. But if you really want to try and maximize your damage, don't sleep on the teams where you have to do a lot of clicking, especially when it comes to ability damage teams, because later down the line, there's more ability damage he made that's going to break the game. Like, Fire and Dark has gotten extremely crazy with that and Beethoven on JP's side. And there's still other elements that aren't too much of a slouch either. I know Light and Thunder can still do some pretty decent stuff, and Wind stepped up on it as well. It's kind of Water that's falling behind on all that. But, they'll probably pick up again. That's how things work in this game. Like, Light's starting to fall off a little bit in normal attack damage, so they'll probably get some stuff to boost it soon on, JP's side. But anyways, that's all for this. Again, just wanted to break this down, give a little bit of explanation about it. Ability damage is actually pretty fun if you want my opinion, but you have to pay attention to a lot of different stuff, and elaborate weapons are definitely the big thing with it. And this doesn't work as well with her, but you could kind of do the same thing with Medea. I just wouldn't, because Edison is far more damage than Medea, and then Beethoven is far more damage than Edison. So, yeah. Besides, if you've done things properly enough, you'll still get 17 red abilities off with Beethoven. So, there's that. But, anyways, actually, I think you still get 18, because if Beethoven's actually 2 cooldowns, then Och will still be able to use another red. So, yeah, that will be a factor. But anyways, that's all for this. More will come soon, and take care.